Hi, welcome to the Kingsforge Apprentices in-depth look video. My name is Nick Zabicki, designer of Kingsforge. Let's get started. Alright, so here we go. Let's take a look at some of these apprentice inclusions. First we have the dice, and I know some players who play Kingsforge really don't like it when the markets run out of dice, and that can definitely pretty easily happen, especially in 4-player games. So Apprentices does come with a number of extra dice. This also makes it much more, it facilitates adding a 5th player to the game, because if you add 5 players to the base game, you tend to find that you run out of dice, especially things like metal, really quickly, where, remember, every player is going to start with 5 metal. So starting with 25 of the metal dice already in use will make that pile run very, very quickly, or run out very, very quickly. So again, these extra dice just help facilitate that, although they can be included in every game you play, especially if you don't like it when the dice run out. I kind of like it when dice run out in the 3- and 4-player versions of the game, because that means there's a possible strategy where you can try to monopolize a certain type of die, but it's very difficult to actually pull off anyway. So, just get some extra dice into the game. Let's actually talk about the new Gather cards. And again, all this prototype art, these are sketches. There isn't finished artwork for these yet. Again, we're hoping that with the Kickstarter and the support from the Kickstarter, we will be able to finish these actually quite quickly. But it also kind of depends on, the stretch goals, and, you never know how a campaign goes. So, but we do have sketches for most of what the artwork is going to look like. Let's show you some of the cards. So this is a smelter, and I want to draw your attention to 2 things. First of all, if you're used to going to the mines and paying 2 to get 2, you can go to the smelter and pay 4 to get 3. So it costs a little bit more, but it's even a bigger dice acceleration kind of mechanism, which is very, very cool. And the bottom, this is unheard of so far. We've yet to see a +4 in Kingsforge, so Apprentices will be the first one. But throw away a wood die and you get a +4 for the round. It's almost, it's both as good and better, and sometimes worse, but usually as good and better than a automatic 6 that you find on the black market. So it's usually slightly more advantageous to take the +4, just because that'll help you get to a 7, and which is so useful for stealing. The Chancery, this is perhaps one of the most evil cards. There's really 2 evil cards in the Apprentices expansion. The top ability is this, again, pay 4. Again, it's a bigger cost kind of card, bigger investment. But again, look what you get from it. You get both a wood and a metal, accelerating your dice pool in multiple directions. The bottom is a little more interesting. You have to throw 2 dice away. So this is very expensive, but this will allow you to move 1 die from your smithy tile to your supply. So it's sort of like a mini astrologer, if you've liked that card, except notice the difference. This happens immediately, and it goes to your supply, which means that the die you get out, unlike the astrologer, you can still use during the gathering phase. The astrologer dice only happen during the crafting phase. And second, perhaps even more excitingly and more evilly, for each opponent, move 1 die from their supply to their smithy tile. This is insanely powerful if done at the right time. If everyone has exactly 1 magic die, and they're all trying to craft, 1 or 2 low magic numbered items, well, you can sort of force them to put all of those magic dice back into their smithy tile. So very, very evil. It does come with a pretty steep cost to do this, but man, sometimes it's exactly what you need. Wharf. Check out this. Again, Apprentices has a lot of big cards that let you accelerate your dice pool very quickly for just one or two plays. Throw 2 away, put 3 others here, collect 3 wood. So you can do this your very first turn in the game and go right up to 3 wood on 1 card. Very powerful, but again, that's probably the only thing you're doing that round. So be very careful that, when you take this card, that you want to import all this wood all at once and do nothing else. The bottom is a free ability, and this introduces the counterfeit tokens. Roll a die. If the result is 4 or higher, take a counterfeit token. Counterfeit tokens will be purple disc shape, sort of like the other tokens included in Kingsforge. These don't have any screen printing on them, but again, through the Kickstarter, we hope to include that as part of the game. But counterfeit tokens are perhaps the most radical departure from the basic mechanics of the game, because basically you get 3 of these, you turn them all, or 3 or more, I should say, you turn them all in, and you take the lowest numbered craft item off of the board. So this is a completely alternative way to win the game. Instead of actually trying to roll dice and collect items, just collect craft tokens. Now, This seems like it's insanely overpowered and cheesy and terrible, but now there's only, keep in mind, there's a very few number of cards in the game that actually get craft tokens. And so, effectively your chances of rolling a counterfeit token, your chances here are 50-50, without any sort of bonus. So I'd effectively have to take this card 6 times to, in terms of, probability, collect one item off the board. And number one, it's very rare that I'm going to be able to take this card 6 times myself, just through basic play of the game. It's so easy for an opponent to just, when they go and use the docks, just to discard it and take it off the board. And it's also, I'm losing 6 actions in the meantime, so it's a steep investment. I mean, it looks like it's super powerful, but it's a lot harder to do in practice, trust me. So we have these new counterfeit tokens, right? You collect 3 of them, and boom, you get an item. Just take it right off. The quarry, again, bigger investment, 2 green, 2 anything, a red and a black. Also has a free +1, so in case no one has this yet, you can go right here. This is actually quite a nice deal for the amount of stuff you get for just 4 dice. Underworld Gates, same cost as the quarry, but check this out. You can either choose a gem or a magic. And there's plenty of times I've actually seen people in playtesting who've taken this for the magic, right? You normally think, hey, just always take the gem. I've seen you just think always take the magic, but hey, sometimes the gem is much more important depending on the board. The bottom ability is also the first of its kind. 2 metal dice for free. What? That's insane, right? But now, if you take this, you may not crack this round. So a little bit of a deal with the devil kind of idea. You can rapidly accelerate your dice pool, but no crafting for you. So timing the taking of this on a round where you're not really planning on crafting anyway is a huge swing. So very, very powerful card. Mage Guild, again, check out the top, 2 magic dice. We've never seen a card that's had 2 magic dice before. Just all I have to do is throw away 4 dice too. Throw away 4 dice, get 2 magic. Of course, the catch is one of them has to be a gem. And the bottom ability, again, another thing we've never seen before, pay 3, get 2 +2s. And this is very, very powerful, especially in rounds towards the end where you have a lot of dice and you can afford to put 3 here to keep 2 +2s for something else. Very, very powerful card. Pawnbroker, free metal, one of the most loved abilities, I think, in Kingsforge, just take a free die. But the bottom, you can pay 3, and you just take 1 counterfeit token. If you remember on the wharf, it was kind of a gamble to get that counterfeit token. Well, here you can just pay 3 and just take 1. So again, if this card and the wharf are both in the same game, I think the counterfeit token strategy is a viable strategy, and also denying people one of those 2 cards is very, very important. So very cool ability, and this is a definite way to get counterfeit tokens. Prison, just take a free metal. The top, kind of boring. The bottom's more exciting. You pay a green, and all players must return 3 dice to their smithy tiles. So this is a way to essentially, put your dice, or put your opponent's dice back into jail, right? Back so they can't use them. Again, this is a great card to take near the end of a round where people have already spent a bunch of their dice and are trying to just save a few for crafting, and just forcing them to put those dice back, and all of a sudden they can't do it anymore. Oh man, I've seen a lot of sad faces from this card. So it's another really evil card. I know a lot of people have played Kingsforge and had Cemetery in their first card and just, oh man, just felt so betrayed and so like the game hates them. And I kind of suspect this card will evoke such hatred as well. But again, keep in mind, as these gathered card pools get bigger and bigger, the chances of seeing either the prison or the cemetery in any game goes down dramatically. So, hopefully you're not playing every game of Kingsforge with the cemetery and the prison, but every once in a while I do like these sort of almost pure evil abilities where it's just slowing. Let's have everyone slow their game down and need to take another round before they can really go do what they want to do. The Palace. All right, so we have a gem, another alternative way to get a gem, which is actually fairly inexpensive. Just you're only throwing 1 die away, and all I need is 1 other 1 and a green one. Not too hard to do. But the bottom one is very exciting. Put 2 dice here. As soon as you do this, the gathering round ends immediately. You go right to crafting for all players. So this can really make some short rounds of Kingsforge. And here's the kicker. Not only does the round end immediately, but all players roll the dice in their smithy tiles. So this is like astrologer for everybody, and no one else gets to do anything. Completely, you know, the timing of when you take this card is so important. And the timing of when you don't take it. I've seen a lot of players take this at the worst timing possible, where they're just effectively shorting themselves 2 dice on their crafting phase and getting no benefit from this. They're just trying to get a quick craft before someone else does. Very difficult card to play effectively, believe it or not. It looks like it's again completely overpowered, but I've seen so many players, again, like I said, kind of screw up the timing. Let's talk about, we're back to the beginning. Smelter, there we go. So there you go. There's your new set of gathering cards that we've been working with. Let's take a look at some of the new craft cards. And there will be some, well, here, hold on one second. Let me just reorder them. Never mind. I don't care enough. Okay, I think they're in order. Nope, they're not. You'll notice a couple things about this set of craft items. Number one, there's definitely a focus on more very easy items and more very difficult items. And the reason for this is because of the apprentice cards, which are over there and we'll show you in a second. But the apprentices make your decision whether or not to start crafting earlier or build giant engines for later even more dramatic. And so I wanted a set of craft items here that help emphasize this. So we have a number of very easy items, so that's totally not in order. But here's 3 actually easy items, as well as some very difficult items. I mean, that's pretty hard to, first of all, amass 3 magic dice in any game, but also need the wood to go along with it. Or how about 3 wood 6s? Again, very difficult. The Arcan Rock. Check out this. Again, very difficult rolls. This is currently the highest number we have in the game so far, number 135. 3 magic 6s. Trojan Horse. How about a Dragon Harness? So again, this sort of extending, a combination of extending the game to include a few more of these much more difficult items, as well as just put some more easy items on the board. So maybe, you know, picking up that first easy item is worth even more, right? Since the ending items get so insanely difficult, you want to get them as early as possible. But at the same time, because of these cards, building up to those really high-level items isn't that difficult. Let's talk about these. So a couple of these I went over in the Kickstarter video, but I'll just go over them again just because. So here you have Mila. Here's how the apprentices work. On your turn, instead of drafting a gather card or visiting the docks or passing, you can hire or draft an apprentice. If you hire an apprentice, you must pay this cost, and from now on, for the rest of the game, you'll get this benefit every round. And for benefits that officially have a trigger, they trigger at the start of the round, but they also trigger when you hire that apprentice as well. So if I were to buy this, for the rest of the game, now my gem and magic dice may be used interchangeably during crafting, which means if I roll, 1 blue dice and 3 red, I effectively can have 4 blue or 4 red. I can use them in any combination. Super cool, super powerful. Now, I also said you don't have to hire an apprentice right when you draft them. If you can't or don't want to pay the cost, you can actually just take an apprentice. And this does discard a gather card off of the board, and you just turn them sideways. This means you haven't hired them yet, but you basically contracted them. So they're going to work for you. They're getting ready to go work for your smithy shop, but they're not hired yet. At the start of any round until the end of the game, once you pay the hiring cost, this apprentice flips around, and now is your ability to use for the rest of the game. You can only have 1 drafted unhired apprentice at a time, though. So if I draft Mila, I can't draft another one without having to pay for it. Here's another one. Here's John, right? So again, hiring cost, throw 1 away, pay 3. But from now on, every round, I get a free die flip, where I can flip a die to its opposite face. And again, like I was saying, if I already drafted Mila, I couldn't also draft John, but I could, if John was in the stack, I could hire John, like so, and now John is activated and hired while Mila is still just waiting. Here's another way to get counterfeit tokens. Hiring cost, super cheap, just 1. But roll a die. On a 5+, take a counterfeit token. So 1/3 chance to get a counterfeit token every round. That's not bad. Who likes rerolls? Who would like a free reroll every round? Well, you need Gertrude. Throw 1 wood away, pay 3 others. You have a permanent reroll for the rest of the game. Ingrid. Similar cost to Gertrude, but instead of a reroll, how about 3 permanent +1s for the rest of the game? Now, it should be noted, though, you can't split these up, so I can't use one like during the apprentice phase and one during the gathering phase and then one during the craft phase. When I use them, I must use them all at the same time. But still, that's pretty potent. Oka. Oka really likes gems, as you can see from her beautiful picture here. It does come with a very steep cost. Throwing 5 away is not cheap. But once you do, whenever you hire her, you get a gem immediately, and you get a gem immediately every round for the rest of the game. So if you just hire her the first round, you put a gem in your gem pool. The start of the next round, she gives you a second gem. So after 2 rounds, you already have 2 extra gems. And 3, 4, 5, you can see how these gems will pile up very, very quickly. You'll be a very, very rich man or woman, if you hire Oka. Alvin, same kind of idea. This is perhaps one of the even most powerful apprentice cards because dice are always useful. Just having more dice is always useful. And for Alvin, this cost is you can effectively, it's possible to hire him first round. Very unlikely, let's say that. But it's very possible to hire him second round. And by the second round, I mean getting 2 metal dice every round for the rest of the game. Very, very powerful, especially late game where if everyone's dice pool is just starting to burn out, trying to get the really hard items, and you still have this permanent income, you can outlast a lot more players. Caitlin, oh, look at the cost. You have to throw away 2 gems and 2 other dice. That's one of the most expensive apprentices here, probably second most expensive overall. We haven't even seen the most expensive yet. But check out the ability. Every round, and when you hire her, take a counterfeit token. And remember, whenever you take 3 of these, you just get an item. So basically, once you've taken Caitlin, every 3 rounds, you just take an item off the board. Very, very sneaky, very, very expensive. But, the game is now on a timer once Caitlin gets hired. Alicia. Alicia is completely free. No cost whatsoever. You can just draft her. Every round, roll a die. If it's 5 or higher, take a medal into your hand immediately. So that's cool, right? Just who doesn't like free dice? Bernard. This is similar to some of the other dice people we've seen with, just collecting dice every round. But he's just going to give you a wood every round. And he, unlike Oka or some of the other dice givers, you can actually purchase him first round and just start collecting wood for the rest of the game. And remember, if King's Forge goes your average, 5 to 9 rounds each game, well, you're only paying 4 here, and over the course of the game, you might be collecting 7 or 8 wood. So I mean, it looks like a big investment, but man, it can pay off in the late game, especially if there's lots of really hard items on the board. Daya, same kind of idea, except for magic. Look at the cost. You do have to throw away 2 gems, but man, a magic every round for the rest of the game, very, very powerful, as long as there's a board to support it. Fogo, oh man, Fogo is a beast. This is still, creates some of the most interesting games of King's Forge I've played recently. You do have to throw away a magic, a gem, and 2 wood to hire Fogo. Fogo is a very expensive, elusive fellow, but every round for the rest of the game, you basically get 1 of each, minus the magic. That's amazing. And again, if it's a really difficult board, Fogo is really important. Of course, if you're spending all your time just trying to get Fogo, or at least get enough cost so you can hire Fogo, and everyone else is collecting a bunch of easy items, I've seen Fogo lose a lot of games for people too. So again, if and when you pursue a Fogo strategy, really does depend on how difficult the game board is. And if there's too many easy items out, this is a losing strategy. If there's not enough easy items out, man, this can take over a game. So knowing when to take Fogo it takes some experience, but man, it's a very swingy card that it's playing with fire. Let me put it that way. It's a very dangerous card to take. The cost is extraordinary, and you might actually lose the game before you get to see your mountains of dice forming. But very, very powerful. Hinklage, we've seen this ability before. Just gain a wood every turn. You have to throw away a lot less dice here to get it. Just throw away 1 away. You have to come up with 5 more to spend. But again, it is not currently really possible, but at least I'm thinking about the first round, but certainly by the second round, this is a very inexpensive way to get wood for the rest of the game. Ket, I showed this card off in the Kickstarter video as well. You do have to throw a magic die away, as well as 1 of any type, but here's what you get for it. For the rest of the game, you can roll 1 of those white library dice, the wild ones, and you get a permanent +1. So you're basically changing your magic into a die that you can use during the gather phase as a magic, as well as the crafting phase, to a wild die during the that you can only use during the crafting phase. And this has some really interesting interactions. Like it gets around cards like the prison, for instance, right? They can't prison your library die. It also, having a +1 doesn't need to go onto this wild die. You can actually put the +1 anywhere you want. So, it looks like you're just changing a blue into one of anything, but it actually has some very nice subtleties, some extra bonuses that are very, very cool. And I think that's it from the stack. Yeah, I think we just went through those. As you can see, these cards are very powerful. Knowing when to take them is very important. Many of them have pretty huge costs, and if it's not even huge, many of them just have fairly expensive costs, for what they give you. Normally during a game of Kingsforge, it'd be a pretty terrible idea to put 4 dice here, throw 3 of them away, and only take 1 wood, right? That's a pretty terrible deal. But again, if you let it go for 3 or 4 rounds, you've actually made a nice profit. So knowing when to buy these apprentices becomes really, really important in this version, or this part of the expansion.